All right. Well, um, I'm going to do a quick message. I hadn't done it in a while. Somehow I thought my algorithms were doing good, but somehow I pick up maybe 18 views and then all of a sudden it just stops. You know, YouTube is kind of just that way. And a lot of it's maybe not the algorithms so much as it is the content. It's just not something people want to share and push on. It's interesting, though. I do listen and listen. I guess I listen to things, but more so I read comment sections of videos and things. I see where many people are still very, very supportive of God and Jesus. Uh, and it's not just in a particular area. It seems these comments come from all over. Mostly English, so it's mostly I'd say United States, but down in our culture. So I'm not sure about other countries. I know they are interested in the Bible just as we are. So Bible, New and Old Testament has Jesus in it, and they are interested in the entire Bible in its entirety. So interesting enough, I put the videos out there. It's been a while, but sometimes I feel compelled to push another one out when I have the opportunity and the time just seems right. I sometimes get ideas of what message to speak on. Uh, this time around, I was thinking about the reason. When sometimes our reason for doing something is, as my pastor put it one time, he said, we always have alternative motive. If we're asked to go do something, by somebody, hey, can you go to the store for me? Oh, well, okay, yes. Well, okay, you probably might have been going to the store anyway, and that just gave you the little push to go. The person might say, hey, I'll give you a few dollars for you to buy something, go to the store, and that's where you've been, kind of been encouraged by saying, go get yourself something. Well, that's not so much an extra motive, but it's encouragement. But you may have been planning to go to the store anyway, and they say, hey, can you go to the store for me? Ah, sure, yes. Okay, so, but this is more, let's say you're a daughter or son of, your mom and dad has asked you to go to the store, and I need this from the store. Um, well, you've already, wanted to go to the store anyway and get something, so here it is. They've given you the opportunity, uh, and so it's your opportunity to say, when I do go to the store, I'm not just helping them. I'm, they say, here, take the car, go to the store. Uh, it's helping yourself because you're going to buy some of the things you want and need. Uh, so, and I know sometimes, let's put an example. Let's say you're a child, and, or sometimes I guess we say husband or wife, boyfriend girlfriend relationship. Says, you go say, hey, honey, do you need anything from the store? Or I think you need something from the store. Don't you need this? Aren't you out of this? Uh, oh yeah, okay, yeah, sure, I'll go. Of course, you're already wanting to go to the store and just trying to make it look good for everybody that you're thinking of them. So why I say this is because it's a question of reason. Is it okay? Opinionated if the reason is selfish. Well, if it helps the other person, is that reason selfish or is it not selfish? Uh, then you do it as a sort of a balance to balance, say, okay, yeah, I'm helping another person, but I help myself too in the process. Should we actually feel guilty about that? Uh, Now, this question doesn't count for the going to the store and simple things, but you know, let's say we're going and doing a something far and beyond, and process of that. You say, well, I'm going to take you out to eat. You got to be careful with that. This is where it gets to be selfishness. Where I'm gonna take you out deeper. We're going to that nice new restaurant. We're going to maybe that's the place you like. Let's try to be more of a family. This is all my messages are always about: being more family, being more of a friend. Uh, this person, may know something about this restaurant. Give them a minute, to respond. Oh, I like that idea. Oh no, I heard that restaurant's not right. Well, we can go try it or something. But or maybe they're feeling something different. Say, well, uh, we haven't had this in a long time. Can we just go back there tonight? Sometimes people are not up to doing something new and different. It takes a better special day. Maybe they're tired. And you're saying, let's go to this restaurant. This restaurant, you have to get dressed up. You have to spend a lot of time in the place because it's very, very busy, popular, and it's like this person, you got to account for their feelings and things. It starts to become a little more selfish because you're not tired. You not to say you didn't work, but other people have different days and different situations where they're tired. And now we look at the fact that people never ever want to go do something that gets to be strenuous on a relationship. Uh, so each person has to try to work that out for themselves. But my message was the reason, thoughts, and I figured I'd do this message based on that. Is our reason. We can have the reason for ourselves, but we can't really have it as so selfish, because we're talking of the reason to go with somebody, go help somebody, go do this or go do this. We don't have to have reason to do something for ourselves necessarily. Or we can find a million different reasons to do something for ourselves. But sometimes, somebody might have an idea of reason to go do something, and you have other motives. There was a story one time where the church calls for, it's a song, it was an old song, church calls for mission fields, and the people all say hear fishing reels, or think fishing reels. There's something about the song goes, the Lord sure knows something's mighty wrong. On many moments you will hear many people volunteer. So you've got to, I don't know, maybe some people don't feel guilty as the other people do. Maybe we are, well, they say we are selfish people as a whole. And sometimes that's a little more on the bad things. And we get too selfish and we're not helping our fellow people out to be more of a loving community. We've got, it seems like, stress so much that's caused so much hatred. We're not sitting down and having a cup of coffee together and just talking. And we don't do that, I guess, because one moment it's, how are you doing? I'm okay. And then the next moment is like, oh, you're sitting there drinking coffee, and then you might hear more than what you want to hear. It's like, oh, this is, so much. I've already got my own problems. I'm sitting here trying to think, and this person's sitting here telling me all about their problems and dumping it all on me. We call it dumping because it's just sometimes it's so many, and it goes so many different directions. Sometimes it says, "Oh well, that's okay. I feel better about myself, and hey, I can encourage you to go out and do better, or I can tell you this is what you need to do, and you help somebody." And it seems we were built for fellowship. We were built for love as a people. To more love than more hate. More hate doesn't do much good. So, we got all these videos out here that most of the time we watch, but I don't know that we need to be reminded to love somebody today and care for somebody or listen to somebody. So much we are so caught up in our own lives, if we get involved with someone else, we're having to deal with their problems, it seems like. And that becomes a whole other story. Or you aiding them in their bad decisions, or you supporting their bad habits, things like that. Are they doing things that's not right and you're supporting it? No, they say love them from a distance and care, but don't support things like that. You have to stand firm and not. The Bible has several things about that, but you have to stand firm and say, I got my own problems to deal with. I'm not helping you anymore. Don't get in the habit of helping more than you need to. Those people sometimes are professional bums. It took me a long time to, start to see the difference in society between the people who live off people, and they're never okay because that's not their lifestyle. Ever be okay. They're never okay because they're always in need of money because they don't do anything to help themselves. So, we can always give that person money. We don't know the story. A little something that blesses the person who gives it up. Never heard too many people who give out of kindness regret it. I've heard stories where they think somebody can't walk and they catch them walking the next day, and that they get very angry at it. I can go into whole other details about giving away more money than what you have to spare. Take care of us before we take care of others, and others will tell you, no, that's not it. You got to give out of kindness and love, and if you give all your food money and you can go a day or so without eating, you've really gone above and beyond to help that person. We don't know the stories, and I think that's where God places things on your heart. So you got to listen and do what God says on that one. Now, so I'm not going to tell you what to do and not to do, but you got to make sure you're listening and not just thinking, oh, well, this person is needing, and I'm just going to get a blessing. Well, yes, you can get a blessing, but I've argued this a few times. But how much blessing you'll get by encouraging somebody to continue smoking cigarettes and things? And now, am I saying cigarettes bad? No, I have a whole video on that off in there. But when they are, and it is sort of an addiction. I won't argue that. But when somebody continuously cannot get back up on their feet because they've got to have a pack of cigarettes every day and the smokes and some beer, and nothing is going where it needs to go. They've got a flat tire on the car. They have no gasoline in the car, and their situation says they need the ability to have a vehicle to go to work. Then there's a serious problem aiding this person to continue to buy cigarettes. No, we tell you, you go fix their tire, you go buy them a little gasoline. You have to directly give them what they need, not indirectly aid the problem. So anyway, now this is interesting down here. I was looking through the Bible to try to find something to read, because I always try to put at least a straight scripture in here, so I'm ranting and rambling and talking and people complaining, I can just read something straight out of the Bible. And so those couple minutes can be something of the Bible and what it really says, not opinionated. And I can give an opinion on it, but the video doesn't just have something that's opinionated or worthlessness to somebody whose opinion differs. So I'd heard this one a while back, and I was looking through the Bible trying to find a good scripture to read. And I wanted something that talked about reasons and givings and stuff like that. And there is some scriptures on giving and things like that. There's a story of the woman who, the widowed woman who gave more because she gave from her heart. But something of interest, as these videos are kind of a social thing also, and how to do better in society. You look at the Bible, it's over a couple thousand years old. And it's interesting that we think the Bible is an old, outdated book, but when it comes down to it, I've started learning it and telling more and more people technology. I'm on this phone, I'm doing a video, I'm on YouTube. Someday it might take off and thousands of people see this video, and it might never go anywhere, but I don't know that videos go away, so it'll probably be off in there, and it might start getting shared depending on what worldly events change. But there's so much in the Bible, and I was discussing with another man in the church about how they call it God's living word. One moment you open the Bible and it means nothing. Maybe as a young age you read things in the Bible and it doesn't mean anything. And then as time goes on, you hear a scripture and you go back and you study that scripture, that message, and you go and say, well, that does apply. And I don't remember that being in the Bible before, but maybe you just didn't pay attention to it. But here now you're going through this part in your life where this part in the Bible speaks of this thing that is part of your life. And I think for me it was interesting because I've been to some social gatherings, and some of us have really probably been to some very, very special social gatherings, big weddings, big events, are very, very special things. And I'd heard this scripture before, so when I was kind of thumbing to the Bible looking for scripture to read tonight, I thought, well, this is something to discuss and to mention. So I'll read it here first. And this is Luke 14. Let's see, we're down here. Yeah, 14. And we're going to start down here with verse 7. So that's Luke 14:7. And he put forth a parable to those which were bidden, when he marked how they chose out the chief rooms, saying unto them, when thou art bidden of any man to a wedding, sit down in the highest room. Sit not down in the highest room, he says, lest a mere honorable man then thou be bidden of him. And he that bade thee and him come and say thee, give this man place, and thou begin with shame to take the lowest room. But when thou art bidden, go and sit down in the lowest room, and then when he that bade thee cometh, he may say unto thee, friend, go up higher, then shalt thou have worship in the presence of them that sit at the meat with thee. For whosoever exalts himself shall be abased, and he that humbleth himself shall be exalted. So it's interesting on that. And interesting enough, well, I'm going to read to you verse 12 here in a minute, and it does kind of relate to what my message is. So I know there are a lot of these and nows. We have lots of translated scriptures, and you can Google anything, pretty much find any translation of the Bible there is up on the internet. ESV, there's a New King James Version. This is the King James Version. I stay with it because it has a lot of deeds and nows, but it seems to have a lot of the heart of the thing. And for me, though, a lot of the scripture I've already heard in the actual different text, so more of the English, our English. So I know the story and what it says, and I know I've been saying this, the higher thou shalt bade, the rooms, and in this case, from the English, other English translation Bibles, he refers to rooms, but he's more so it's referring to places. And what it is this person has gone in and he's referring to people how to sit. You've been invited somewhere, so the first thing you do is you take the seat at this big table or this big banquet or this big wedding, and you sit down, and they said, oh, I'm sorry, this seat is reserved. This is for the family of the bride, or this is the groom's family. And a lot of times they'll have little note cards, and they'll have reserves on it, which makes it easier. But many times we might not have something so fancy. We'll have just you'll be invited somewhere that will just have a few tables set up and a little banquet hall and everything. And it's basically you always, the front ones are always somewhat reserved for the special people, special guests, the well-to-do people, as they say. And so when everybody fills in, eventually at some point fills into the room, At some point, you will be told by an usher, or be told by somebody, "No, we're gonna have this family sit here." Somebody who's in charge, somebody who organizes things. This is for such and such. And next thing you know, you're finding nowhere to sit, and you're pretty much standing up in the back of the place. All the seats are full. But if you go to the back to begin with, and just say, "I'm just nobody. I'm just here. I was invited. I'm nobody special." And you sit down towards the back. Somebody who invited you will come sometimes because they invited you probably as being somebody they really like and really think highly of. Um, they'll come and take you and bring you up front. Well, then the people get to look at you and go, "Oh, look at this person. He must be an amazing person." He goes up front with the head people over the group, the top people in this group. When they say, the wedding or the business, he's really something, and people accept that more, especially. But as the scripture says, it's referring to you. How do you feel? When you're already kind of nervous, you're out of place, and you're kind of been invited to something that obviously you're not familiar with because there's, and you've decided that you just picked a seat up front. You just don't do that. And that's what I'm saying. 2,000 years later, it's things that can still be important. If you sit up front and they say, "Oh, you got to move," all of a sudden you're the one looking like you've been rejected, and we don't like that. We don't want to feel rejected. We want to feel loved and wanted. How much does it feel to be in front of all these people and to be rejected? And that's what the scripture talked about, being, rejected because you're not sitting in the right place. But it's just describing how to do a social. But he's also talking about how it is to be a Christian and things like that. Don't push yourself up to the top of the group. Say, I'm high and mighty. I'm gonna sit right here. It says just be somewhat normal and accepting. Anyway, and then we was talking about this. I was kind of glancing down at 12, which is Luke 14:12, and this is interesting enough. Where I was talking about helping people, and strangely enough, I just spoke of the Bible and how it kind of all of a sudden just reveals something. And I've been thumbing through, looking at several scriptures in the Bible, and I'm all the way, into Luke and the New Testament before I found more of the things that I thought I'd read on, such as that wedding in the place of honor and everything. And so this other scripture, I've seen this one too, because I've pretty much heard I've heard all the Bible at one point in time, King James Version. And then over time I've heard so many different repeats of the scriptures in different versions. So anyway, this is down here in Luke 14:12. Then they said unto him that bade him, "When thou makest a dinner or supper, call not thy friends nor thy brethren." See, that's interesting though. We, because here in the South, we refer to it as supper, and I see a lot of people refer to it as dinner also. But we have breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and theoretically there's I think a breakfast, lunch, dinner, and then there's a later on evening meal, which I think was actually considered supper by a lot of people. But anyway, our deal was, if it was an actual bigger meal, I think we considered it dinner. If it was just something you'd carry in a lunch box, it would be considered a lunch. If you actually sit down and eat dinner, even as lunchtime, it gets kind of complicated. But anyway, there's here they, even in those times, they refer to it as supper. But anyway, Let's get going here. Call not thy friends nor thy brethren. We're talking about when thou makest dinner, um, or our supper. Call not thy friends nor thy brethren, neither thy kinsmen, nor thy rich neighbors, lest they also bid thee again, and recompense be made thee. But when thou makest a feast, call the poor, the maimed, the lame, the blind. And thou shalt be blessed, for they cannot recompense thee, for thou shalt be recompensated at the resurrection of the just. Let's see. So this is interesting too. This is exactly what kind of I'm talking about. Now, see, like I say, I'm familiar with that scripture too, in the English version more so than what it's doing in there. It did. I think I stumbled the word a little bit, but the word was recompensated. So what it is on that, the other part was recompensance, which is saying the same thing. The other side of the page here, being recompensated. You know, I buy you dinner today, you buy me dinner tomorrow. That we both working people have money, or both have an income, both have plenty of money. So it even says here, mentions the rich neighbor, mentions the rich, and so you know all you're doing is basically kind of loaning them the money, but basically you're just, I have it today, you have it tomorrow, and you haven't done much. You've just loaned them the money for the day and got paid back the next day. That's not out of love and kind. But he's saying, but when thou makest a feast, call the poor, the maimed, the lame, and the blind, and thou shalt be blessed. It's saying, you know, take care of these people. And that goes back to what I was saying. You know, we're not giving them money, but we're doing direct things for people to be blessed by. You know, buy them that meal. And I see that a lot too, because people do know that they're aiding them to buy things that they don't need, alcohol and cigarettes, and they don't put the money to things such as that would help them in the future, and they continue being a burden in society. It does, you say they're, you know, homeless is not a burden, but they start pulling taxes, resources, and other people who do the same thing, who never get back on their feet. They don't go out and start a business. I think if we had less of the handouts, that you'd see people who would start some method. They'd have more of a attitude of, we're going to start a business, or I'm going to do this. And so I'm not talking about an old person who's had problems with health or different reasons, mental problems, where you've been on drugs, from traumatic situations. You can kind of refer to those people as somewhat of the problem, but the younger generation are the ones who are realizing that they can just pull off the government, and then they increase the taxes. And it's already been said that we are going to pass the amount of people making money and the amount of money being made to taxing resources, that there will no longer be enough money to go around, and people are going to start starving. Then you think that would motivate them, but I don't know. That's just going to be some tough days when there's the balance that's so far off. But it just seems to be an overall depressing of society, where people are lounging around all day and they don't have enough to eat, and it just seems like they're you know, you have meals and things, but I know food banks and things that they run low on food. These healthcare things. There's a lot of people hurting in society, but there's a lot of people that need a chance. But I tell you, the income versus the housing and situation and the food and everything else, it's not difficult to become destitute, is a fancy word. just to become pretty much homeless. And we've gotten better over medical bills. A lot of times that won't affect your credit, so because medical is a serious problem. That's a whole nother situation of people trying to get proper health. And I've heard the health goes bad, especially down on your back, and you can't work. It puts people out of the apartments, puts them out of the rental place. Sometimes if you have a home but you can't pay the taxes, it'll put you out of your home and you will become homeless. It happens. But anyway, so we can't just, when we are in a sense of ability to help, that's what he's saying. When you make it to feast, you make it, not saying I'm making a loan, say I'm doing it for you. I'm doing it out of love and care. That's when you get your true blessings. So anyway, so I guess it did work out pretty good. I did come across the scripture. So anyway, I don't know about these videos picking up anything, but I did another one. Here it is at 31 minutes, and I got everything in it. I guess I'm gonna get in it for this round. So we'll add this to the list.